My name is Claire Whitaker. I'm 34 years old, and most of my life revolves around raising my two kids, Logan, who's 7, and Mira, who's 5. I work in IT, steady job, steady paycheck, and I do freelance work after the kids fall asleep because stability isn't a vibe in my world. It's a requirement, a roof, a grocery list, a school project that needs supplies you forgot to buy. Their father and I divorced a couple years ago, and honestly, life got quieter in a way I didn't expect. There was grief, yes. There's always grief when something you built collapses, but the constant tension faded. The air in our home became breathable again. The only real chaos left came from my own family. My mother Diana, my father Frank, and my sister Tessa, who has spent her entire life acting like every room is a stage and every person in it is her audience. And here's the thing I used to tell myself over and over because it hurt less that way. They don't mean it. They're just busy. It's not personal. But kids don't speak in excuses. Kids speak in questions. And questions are sharp. Last Christmas Eve, I loaded presents into the car, while Logan bounced near the trunk like his body could barely contain his excitement. He'd been working on a handmade Christmas card for days, folding it, unfolding it, adding tiny stars, rewriting the Merry Christmas, because he wanted it perfect. Mira kept asking if Grandma would have hot chocolate and if the twins, Tessa's boys, Landon and Caleb, would be allowed to stay up late. My parents had told me, casually the week before, Christmas dinner is at 6. No details, no, can you bring something? No, we can't wait to see you. Just a time, like I was receiving a dentist appointment. But I didn't question it. I wanted my kids to have the version of family I grew up believing in. The one with warm lights and laughter and a table big enough for everyone. So we showed up 5 minutes early. The moment we stepped out of the car, I heard it. Not normal holiday chatter. This was full volume, too many people in one place noise. The kind where you can hear wrapping paper tearing and someone yelling over everyone else like they own the air. I knew exactly who the loudest voice belonged to. Tessa. I walked up the porch steps with Logan on one side and Mira on the other. They were bundled in coats so puffy they looked like little astronauts, their breaths puffing white in the cold. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. Still nothing. On the third knock, I heard someone inside say, "Who keeps banging?" followed by laughter. That laugh was Tessa's. Loud, dramatic. The kind of laugh that demands attention like a spotlight clicking on. Logan's fingers tightened around mine. Mira leaned closer to my leg. I knocked one more time, hard enough that the wreath trembled. Footsteps finally came. The door cracked open. My mother appeared wearing a glittery red sweater and the kind of polite smile she uses when she's pretending everything is fine while secretly annoyed. That smile dropped the second she saw me. "Oh," she said. "Claire, I didn't realize you were coming." I stared at her. Behind her, I could see the dining room glowing with candles. The big table was full. Every chair taken, including folding chairs I'd seen them drag out for random guests in past years. People I didn't recognize. People laughing like they belonged. In the living room, Tessa was mid-performance, waving both hands like she was telling a story on a stage. One of her twins shouted something about Santa coming early, and there we were, me, my kids, standing on the porch like strangers. My mother stepped forward, one clean movement, and blocked the doorway like she was guarding something valuable. "Well," she said, voice airy, like this was unfortunate weather, "the thing is, we just don't have room this year." I blinked, slow. I kept my voice even because my kids were right there, watching my face for cues. "Say that again." She tilted her head like I was being difficult. "There is not room. We already said everything. We didn't plan for extra people." "Extra people?" "Me and my children. In the house I grew up in." I didn't look past her again. I didn't need to. The truth was already lit up behind her in warm candlelight. They had room, just not for us. I nodded once, slow. "All right," I said, "noted, I won't forget it." My mother's mouth opened like she might backtrack, like she might remember she was playing grandmother tonight, but I stepped away before she could rewrite the moment. I walked my kids down the walkway toward the car. Logan tugged my sleeve, his voice small in the cold. "Mom, did we do something wrong? Why didn't Grandma let us in?" That question hit harder than anything Diana said, because it wasn't about me. It was about a child trying to understand why love has conditions. I crouched down so Logan could see my face clearly. I made my voice gentle, steady, like I was building a bridge across something painful. "No, buddy," I said. "You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. That's on them, not on you." He nodded, but I could see his mind working, trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. Mira climbed into her car seat and asked quietly, "Can we still open presents?" I swallowed. "Yes," I told her, "absolutely yes." On the drive home, they started talking about pancakes and Christmas lights and what movie we should watch. Kids do that. They instinctively try to turn the page when the story gets scary. I kept my eyes on the road. I wasn't angry in the explosive way. I was angry in the steady way, the kind you don't forget. That night, after they fell asleep, I sat in the living room with the tree lights on. The house was quiet except for the hum of the heater and the tiny ticking sound of ornaments shifting. And that was when the truth settled into me like a weight. This exclusion wasn't new. It had been building for years in little cuts, family gatherings we weren't told about, cousin birthdays we missed, last-minute plans that somehow always slipped past me. Tessa's kids were treated like royalty. Mine were treated like afterthoughts. And hearing Logan ask if he'd done something wrong, that was the breaking point. Nothing my mother could say would ever be worse than making my child feel unwanted. So I made a decision that wasn't dramatic or loud. Just final. If they didn't make room for my kids, we would stop knocking. After Christmas Eve, life went back to normal in the way it always does when you're a single parent. The world doesn't pause because your heart took a hit. Monday still came. Lunches still needed packing. Logan still needed help finding his missing library book that somehow always vanished on Sunday nights. Mira still wanted her hair brushed exactly the way she liked it. Smooth on top, ponytail high, with the purple scrunchie she called the lucky one. And I still had work. A full-time IT job during the day, then freelance contracts at night, once the kids were asleep. Small companies who needed their systems fixed, their security cleaned up, their broken tools rebuilt. The kind of work people only appreciate when everything is on fire. But something had changed in me. Before Christmas Eve, I'd carried my family like a quiet responsibility. Even when they disappointed me, I still made room for them in my head. I still checked my phone, hoping for invitations that never came. I still softened their cruelty into something easier to swallow. After Christmas Eve, a switch flipped. Not hatred, not revenge, just detachment. Like a door inside me closed, and I stopped wasting strength on people who had already proven they wouldn't protect my kids. The signs had been there for years, small enough that you could pretend they were accidents if you needed to keep believing in your family. But once you see the pattern clearly, you can't unsee it. My mother, Diana, loved being Grandma Diana. Not in private, not in the everyday way. Showing up when a kid is sick, remembering their favorite snack, learning the name of their stuffed animal. She loved it publicly. She loved it when there was an audience. And the audience she cared about most was social media. She never missed an opportunity to post photos with Tessa's boys, Landon and Caleb, matching shirts at the pumpkin patch, rides at the zoo, hot chocolate at the winter festival. And every time the caption was some version of Family Day. Like the whole world needed proof she was the fun grandmother. Not once did she ask if Logan or Mira wanted to come. Not once did she call and say, "Hey, we're taking the boys. Do you want to join?" Nothing. Just pictures, smiles, Family Day. As if my kids didn't exist. The first time I noticed it, I told myself she probably forgot. The second time, I told myself she assumed I was busy. The third time, I stopped lying to myself. One afternoon in early spring, Logan was sitting beside me on the couch while I answered emails. He was scrolling on my phone, supervised, of course, watching dinosaur videos and saving pictures of Triceratops because he was in that phase where he loved facts more than cartoons. Then he paused. He tilted his head the way he does when he's trying to solve a problem. "Mom," he said slowly, "Grandma went without us." I glanced at the screen. My mother had posted a photo, her, Tessa, and the twins at the winter festival, all smiling like a postcard. Hot chocolate in hand. Santa hats. Tessa leaning into the shot like a celebrity. Caption, Family Day. Logan's face was calm, but his eyes were searching mine. Not accusing, just confused. Like he was trying to understand what he had done wrong in a world where grown-ups made decisions without explanation. I felt something in my chest tighten. I wanted to say something comforting, something neat, something that would make it make sense. So I lied. "Maybe she forgot to tell us," I said. Logan nodded, accepting it because he's still young enough to believe adults are mostly good. But the look on his face stayed with me all night. A small disappointment he didn't know how to name. I didn't confront my mother. I didn't send a text demanding an explanation. Because I already knew the answer. If I confronted her, she'd do what she always did. Act shocked. Act wounded. Claim she didn't realize. Claim she assumed. Then turn it into a performance where I ended up comforting her. and I was done doing that. Instead, something inside me shut off. Watching her parade around with Tessa's kids while mine got ignored, it made it brutally clear what I needed to do. Not punish them, not fight them. Detach. For real. Because my kids were not going to grow up believing they had to earn a place in someone else's plans. If someone didn't make room for them, we would stop knocking. So I shifted my focus completely. I got stricter with my schedule, more intentional. I started waking up earlier. Some mornings I'd do home workouts in the living room while the kids ate breakfast at the table nearby. Logan would sit on the counter reading dinosaur facts out loud, like he was narrating a documentary. Mira would color pictures of cats and announce their names like she was introducing royalty. It became part of our routine, small, steady, and it helped more than I expected. After work, I picked up more freelance projects. Companies always needed someone to fix their systems, build a tool, patch a breach, clean up a disaster their own staff couldn't handle. I took every opportunity that didn't steal time from the kids. Some nights I sat at the kitchen table typing while Logan built a tower of blocks next to me. Mira would draw pictures and slide them across the table for approval, like I was an art critic and she was my star employee. I brushed up my skills constantly. New scripts, new software, new certifications. It didn't happen overnight, but I started getting better clients. Clients who paid on time, clients who treated me with respect, clients who didn't talk to me like I should be grateful for crumbs. And that made a difference. The more I focused on building myself, the less my family's opinions mattered. My confidence stopped dipping every time Tessa posted another perfect family photo without us. I stopped checking their pages, stopped waiting for invitations, stopped giving them the benefit of the doubt. Instead, I focused on creating stability for the three of us. And the kids felt it. The structure at home became solid. Set wake-up times, school sorted, small chores that made them feel responsible, bedtime routines that helped them wind down. The more consistent our home became, the more they blossomed. Logan's grades jumped. Mira got more confident talking to other kids. They both laughed more. The little behavior issues that had started creeping in after the divorce, snappy moods, clinginess, occasional tears that came out of nowhere, started fading. Because kids don't just need love, they need safety. And I realized something that made me both sad and strangely relieved. They didn't need Diana's selective attention. They didn't need Tessa's spotlight. They needed me steady. By summer, the emotional switch was complete. I was still polite when my parents called, but the connection was gone. Conversations were short. I didn't chase updates. I didn't ask what they were doing. If they mentioned Tessa's boys, I didn't react. If they didn't mention Logan and Mira, I didn't fill the silence for them. I let the silence sit there like a mirror. And the distance didn't feel lonely. It felt clean, clear, necessary. By late summer, I finally felt steady enough, financially and mentally, to take the next step. For years, I'd wanted a real home for Logan and Mira. Somewhere they could run around, decorate their own rooms, and make memories that didn't involve tiptoeing around people who acted like they were an inconvenience. I had saved for a long time between my job and freelance work, and I knew exactly what I wanted. Not just a house, a statement, a place where no one could ever tell my kids there's not enough room. And when I found it, a large old Victorian on a quiet street not far from the kids' school, I didn't tell anyone. Not my mother, not my father, not Tessa. Because something deep in me already understood. If I told them, they would try to take up space in it. I closed on the house quietly. No announcement, no celebratory dinner, no "we did it" phone calls to family members who had never shown up when it counted. Just keys in my hand. The first weekend after closing, I brought Logan and Mira over with a bag of takeout and the kind of excitement I hadn't felt in years. The house sat on a quiet street not far from their school. An old Victorian with a wraparound porch, tall windows, and bones that told you it had lived through things and survived. It needed work. Real work. The floors were dull and scuffed. The walls were tired, painted in colors that hadn't been updated since someone thought beige was a personality. The light switches clicked like they were from another decade, and the upstairs hallway felt dim no matter how many bulbs you turned on. But when Logan ran through the empty rooms yelling, "This one could be mine," and Mira spun in circles in the living room declaring it the dancing room, I knew. This was it. I didn't hire a contractor. Not because I couldn't afford one, but because I wanted control. Evenings were spent sanding floors after bedtime, wearing old clothes and headphones, while the house echoed softly around me. I repainted one room at a time, choosing colors with the kids when it came to their spaces. Logan picked a deep blue, like the night sky, but braver. Mira chose a soft purple and insisted on adding star stickers because, according to her, every good house needs luck stars. Weekends were for installing shelves, replacing old outlets, fixing lighting one room at a time. I watched tutorials, took notes, made mistakes, fixed them. And slowly the house started to change. The kids helped where they could. Logan held the flashlight or sorted screws with serious concentration. Miera handed me paint rollers and stickers and kept asking if the house was happy yet. Those nights were quiet in the best way. No tension, no disrespect, no walking on eggshells. Just the three of us building something that belonged to us. I had no intention of telling my family. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. They had made it clear, loud and clear, that my kids and I weren't part of their plans. I didn't see a reason to invite them into ours. But small towns talk. One afternoon, while I was tightening a cabinet hinge in the kitchen, my neighbor, Mrs. Porter, stopped by to drop off a welcome plant. She smiled warmly, chatted about the weather, then mentioned, casually, that she'd seen my mother at the grocery store earlier. She seemed surprised, Mrs. Porter said, but pleased. She said it's nice her daughter got that big house on Elm Street. I froze. I knew immediately what would happen next. By that evening, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Missed calls, texts, voice messages. Diana, Frank, Tessa. After another. Why didn't you tell us? We should have been included. You're being dramatic. You did this for attention, didn't you? I didn't respond for hours. When I finally did, it was one sentence. I didn't ask for your permission. That was it. That line lit a fuse. The messages escalated. My mother insisting family shares big news. My father accusing me of being withholding. Tessa hinting, loudly, that I'd probably bought something above my means just to show off. Their reactions didn't surprise me. What did surprise me was what I heard the following week. I was outside raking leaves when my other neighbor, Mr. Dawson, wandered over. He'd lived on the street for decades and somehow knew everything that happened within 5 blocks. He shook his head slightly. Your sister's been talking, he said. I paused. She said you couldn't possibly afford this place, he continued. Said you must be renting it under someone else's name. I stared at him for a second. She really said that? Oh, yeah, he replied. Said you were too broke to buy it. Something about exaggerating your income. I laughed. Not angry. Not hurt. Just amused. Jealousy is loud when it's desperate. I didn't respond to Tessa. I didn't call my parents to correct anything. I didn't explain myself. I ignored every message they sent that week. Their opinions had no place in this house. Instead, I kept working. I finished repainting the hallway, put up shelves in Mira's room for her drawings, helped Logan assemble a desk for his books and dinosaur figures. Every improvement made the house feel more like ours. By the time autumn rolled in, the transformation was nearly complete. Bright walls, smooth floors, working lights, organized rooms. One evening, I stood in the living room watching the kids build a tower from wooden blocks on the rug, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do next. This house was going to have a Christmas worth remembering. Not the kind where you stand outside someone else's door. A real one, built for my kids, in a home where they were never an afterthought. My family had always talked about Chef Mateo Rivera like he was some mythical figure. Tessa bragged nonstop about the one time she'd managed to get a reservation at his restaurant. My mother spoke about his food like tasting it made her special. So one quiet Tuesday morning, I called his restaurant. I explained that I wanted a private Christmas dinner for my family and a few friends. The assistant said his schedule was full for the holiday season. I didn't argue. I simply said, please let him know I respect his work. I want to make something meaningful for my kids. I'll pay triple. She said she'd pass along the message. He called back that afternoon. His voice was calm, professional. He asked questions, number of guests, food preferences, setup. I answered clearly. After a short pause, he said, I can make it happen. A corporate client had canceled Christmas Day. He could take us on with a small team. Once that was set, I made the guest list. Only people who had shown up for us this year. First was Mrs. Ralph, our neighbor who brought soup when Mira had the flu and helped me carry lumber more than once. Then my coworker Julian and his girlfriend Ivy, who checked in when things were rough and never pried. My gym friend Ryland, who helped me move heavy furniture without asking questions. My college friend Nora, visiting with her husband and kids. Omar and Lilia, parents of one of Logan's school friends. And lastly, Patricia, my attorney from the divorce, and her daughter Sienna. A group built on kindness, not obligation. I didn't think about my family once while planning it. And that's when I knew I was doing something right. The days leading up to Christmas felt different in the new house. Not rushed, not anxious, not weighed down by the familiar pressure of, are we included this year? There was no calendar counting down to someone else's expectations. There was just us. Logan helped me string lights along the porch railing, standing very seriously on a step stool like the job required an engineering degree. Mira handed me ornaments one by one, each treated like a priceless artifact. This one goes high, she'd say. This one needs friends. We picked a tall tree that brushed the ceiling, its branches wide and imperfect. The kids decided on a blue and silver theme to match their rooms, and I didn't correct them when half the ornaments ended up clustered at eye level. Stockings went up on the mantel, 3 of them. No extras. No placeholders. In the kitchen, I set up a baking corner just for cookies. Flour dusted the counters, and Mira insisted on tasting everything, even the dough I told her not to eat. For the first time in years, decorating felt peaceful, like we were building something instead of bracing for disappointment. Christmas morning came quietly. Logan and Mira burst out of their rooms in pajamas, slid across the smooth floors I'd refinished myself, and ran straight for the tree. Their laughter filled the house before I even finished my first cup of coffee. There was no clock checking, no wondering where we were supposed to be. This was our day. By late morning, Chef Mateo Rivera arrived with 2 assistants. He stepped into the kitchen, looked around slowly, and nodded. You renovated this yourself? He asked. Yes, I said. Floors, lighting, shelves, everything. He ran a hand along the counter, inspecting the layout like a professional who respected good structure. You did good work, he said. The space makes sense. I like kitchens that respect food. It was simple praise, but coming from a man my family practically worshipped, it felt like a quiet confirmation. Guests started arriving by mid-afternoon. Mrs. Ralph came first, carrying a tin of homemade sweets and calling Logan the young engineer. She told Mira her drawing corner was the best part of the house. Julian and Ivy brought a small plant for the windowsill. Ivy smiled and said, something that grows as fast as your kids. Rylan showed up with a bag of board games and immediately high-fived Logan like they'd known each other for years. Nora, her husband, and their kids filled the living room with loud, happy energy. Logan and Mira soaked it in. Omar and Lilia arrived with books and puzzles chosen with actual thought. Patricia came last, holding a bakery box and giving me a look that said she saw exactly what I'd built. No one needed instructions. They helped set plates. They laughed with the kids. They treated each other like equals. No performances. No power games. When dinner started, Chef Mateo introduced each dish like it was a private restaurant. Roasted herb chicken with winter vegetables, a pasta that tasted like it belonged in a magazine, and a dessert so good, Mira tried to trade Logan one of her new toys for his portion. At one point, Chef Mateo pulled me aside. Your kids are polite, he said. Good energy. You're doing something right. I felt that one in my chest. I took a few photos during the day, nothing staged. Logan decorating cookies with sienna. Mira showing Mrs. Ralph her drawings. A group shot around the table. I posted them with a simple caption. Grateful today. I didn't think twice. 2 hours later, my phone started vibrating like it was angry with me. First message, Tessa. Are you serious? When did you get that chef? You did this to make us look bad, didn't you? Then Diana. Take those pictures down. People are asking why we aren't there. You're causing problems on purpose. Then Frank. This is immature. Fix it before things get worse. I leaned against the counter, took a slow breath, and typed one sentence. You can't complain about a dinner you shut us out of. That was it. No explanation. No debate. The group chat went silent for 5 minutes. Then Tessa sent a long message about betrayal and family reputation, but I didn't read past the first line. I set my phone face down and went back to the dining room. Logan was laughing with Nora's daughters, building a tower out of napkins. Ryland was teaching him a card trick. Ivy was helping Mira hang her new ornament on the tree. The house was full, and I didn't miss my family at all. Later that evening, after the guests left and the kids were winding down, my phone buzzed again. A message from a mutual acquaintance, someone in the same PTA circles as Tessa. Your sister had a meltdown in the group chat. Everyone was talking about your Christmas dinner with the chef. She said you did it to embarrass her. I shook my head. People who crave attention fall apart fast when it shifts away from them. I replied with a single line. Thanks for the heads up. Then I put the phone down and helped the kids clean up. Logan handed me plates one by one. Mira dried spoons with serious focus. They talked about the games they played and which dish they liked most. The pasta was magic, Logan said. The dessert tasted like Christmas lights, Mira declared. That night, after they were asleep, I stood in the living room. The lights glowed softly. The chairs were still pulled out from where people had sat. The house felt lived in, appreciated. This was the first Christmas where nothing felt forced. No begging for a seat. No waiting for approval. Just peace. And I should have known peace would irritate the people who thrived on control. Because 2 days later, the doorbell rang. The kids were in the living room building a blanket fort when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. No deliveries, no neighbors, no plans. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and glanced through the side window. Tessa, she stood on my porch in a long coat that looked better suited for a magazine spread than winter weather. Arms crossed, chin lifted, that familiar posture, half offended, half rehearsed. I didn't open the door right away. I let myself breathe first. Then I opened it, but I didn't step aside. "What do you want?" I asked. She didn't answer. She pushed past me like the house belonged to her, heels clicking sharply against the floor I'd sanded myself. She stopped in the hallway and looked around slowly, taking it all in. "Well," she said, letting out a long breath, "this is cute." I shut the door behind us and leaned against it. "Say what you came to say." She ignored me, wandering toward the living room, touching decorations, tilting her head like she was appraising something she might resell. She stopped at the tree and smirked at one of Logan's handmade ornaments. "You let the kids decorate this?" she said. "It looks messy." "They decorated their home," I replied. "You have a problem with that?" She blinked, clearly not expecting me to answer directly. Then she walked into the dining room, eyes sweeping over the table and chairs. "So you really went all out," she said. "The chef, the photos. You always were dramatic." I followed her, but I kept my distance. "Funny," I said calmly, coming from the person who needs an audience to breathe. She ignored that. Instead, she spun around sharply. "You embarrassed the family." I stared at her. "Explain." She folded her arms tighter. "You posted those pictures knowing exactly what people would think. Everyone keeps asking why Mom and Dad weren't there, why I wasn't there. You made us look like monsters." "You shut the door on my kids," I said evenly. "That's what made you look bad." She scoffed. "You know it wasn't like that." "All right," I said. "Let's walk through it." Her jaw tightened. I started listing things out calmly, one by one, like reading from a timeline I'd memorized. "You told Mom I was probably too busy for your boy's birthday, so we weren't invited." She opened her mouth, but I kept going. "You planned family day trips without Logan and Mira and posted pictures like they didn't exist." Her eyes flashed. "You didn't tell us about Dad's birthday dinner. You didn't tell us about Thanksgiving, and on Christmas Eve, you shut the door in my kids' faces." "That's not how—" "You said there wasn't room," I continued, "but the entire dining table was full, folding chairs included. You made room for everyone except us." She stiffened. "And then," I added, "you told people I was too broke to buy this house. Said I must be renting it under someone else's name." Her gaze slid away. "People exaggerate." "That came straight from you," I said, "and you know it." Silence. I took one step closer, still calm. "You want to talk about embarrassment? You embarrassed yourselves. I didn't need to help." Right on cue, the performance started. Her voice cracked. Her chin trembled. She lifted a hand to her face like she was in a soap commercial. "I just don't understand why you hate us so much." I stared at her. "Is this your crying attempt?" Her lip wobbled harder. "We're family, Claire. I'm trying." "No," I said plainly. "You're trying to avoid consequences." She blinked fast, forcing tears. "This is what you always do," she said. "You push everyone away." I didn't raise my voice. "Crying doesn't undo disrespect." Her mouth fell open. "You don't get to exclude us all year, lie about me, treat my kids like extras, and then show up here acting confused," I continued. "I'm not stupid, and I'm not pretending nothing happened." She inhaled sharply. "We can fix this." "No," I said, "we can't." She stared at me like no one had ever said that word to her before. "You want access to my life because people are asking questions you don't like," I went on. "This isn't about guilt. It's about your reputation." For the first time, she looked genuinely stunned, like I'd knocked the script out of her hands. I gestured toward the hallway. "You made it very clear who mattered to you. My kids are not going near people who treat them like background characters." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Mom and Dad will never forgive you if you push us out." I shrugged. They pushed first. From the living room came the sound of Logan and Mira laughing inside their blanket fort. That sound made everything easier. Tessa looked around again, this time not with judgment, but disbelief. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "I finally stopped making them." She grabbed her purse, spun on her heel, and walked toward the door. She opened it like she wanted to slam it, but caught herself. Maybe pride wouldn't let her. She left without looking back. I closed the door behind her. Locked it, and the house felt steady again. Winter eased into spring, and something unexpected happened. Life stayed calm. No explosions, no dramatic confrontations, no late-night spirals where I replayed conversations in my head. The house stayed steady, the routine stayed steady, and most importantly, the kids stayed steady. Work picked up faster than I anticipated. Companies I'd done small freelance jobs for started asking for longer contracts. The pay improved. The expectations became clearer. I stopped accepting clients who talked down to me or expected midnight miracles just because they paid an invoice. Money stopped being a stressor. Bills were handled early. Groceries didn't require mental math. School supplies, art kits, family outings, nothing required hesitation. Stability became part of the house, as solid as the walls and windows. Logan's reading jumped ahead of grade level. His teachers used words like focused and confident. Mira started bringing home drawings her teacher taped to the classroom wall. She walked taller, spoke louder. Our days developed a rhythm that felt earned. Breakfast together, school drop-off, work, homework at the table, dinner, wind-down routines. Predictable in the best way. By early fall, I was already sketching ideas for the next Christmas. Logan wanted homemade ornaments. Mira wanted a cookie decorating contest. I wrote both down. Everything felt aligned until one quiet Saturday morning. The kids were in the living room building another blanket fort when Logan called out, "Mom, someone's at the door." I froze. Through the window, I saw Diana, Frank, and Tessa standing together on my porch. All three of them. None of them looked angry. They looked rehearsed. I opened the door only halfway. "What is it?" Diana took a shaky breath. "Claire, we need to talk." "Say it from there," I replied calmly. "I have limited time. The kids are busy." Tessa's eyes were red, either from crying or from effort. With her, it was always hard to tell. Frank stood stiffly, hands in his pockets, trying to look composed. Diana swallowed. "We owe you an apology." I raised an eyebrow. "All right, go ahead." She launched into it carefully, voice trembling, hands clasped like she was performing regret. "We made mistakes," she said. "Christmas, all of it. We shouldn't have treated you that way." Frank nodded. "It wasn't right. We didn't think about how it affected you." I didn't respond. I waited. Tessa stepped forward, her voice cracked instantly. "I can't keep pretending everything's fine," she said. I messed up. The tears came fast, too fast, but I let her talk. "I hated seeing you succeed," she admitted. "I hated hearing people talk about how well you were doing. I hated that you bought this house and made it look easy." She wiped her face, breathing unevenly. "You did everything without help, and I couldn't stand it. So I talked, I lied. I let Mom decide things. I should have stood up for you." She looked straight at me. "I'm jealous of you." There it was. The truth. Frank cleared his throat. "We want to fix the family." Diana nodded quickly. "We want to be involved again. With you. With the children." I kept my hand on the door. "You're leaving out something important." Diana blinked. "What?" "You're apologizing because people started asking questions," I said evenly. "This is about saving face, not respecting me." "No," she said quickly. "That's not—" "Then why did it take almost a year?" I asked. Silence. I looked at Tessa. "You said you hated seeing me succeed. That part was honest, and it proves the point." Frank shifted. "Claire, we're trying." "I hear you," I said, "but apology doesn't equal access." Diana flinched. "You want forgiveness," I continued. "Forgiveness is not the same as trust, and trust isn't automatic." Tessa wiped her cheeks angrily. "So we're just cut off?" "No," I replied. "You chose the distance. I'm just keeping it where you put it." "We want to fix this," Diana whispered. "And I want my kids to grow up knowing they matter," I said. "Our goals don't line up right now." "But we're their grandparents," she said. "Then you should have acted like it." Frank looked away. None of them knew what to say next. I straightened. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm not carrying this. But I'm not opening the door to people who've already shown me they won't protect my kids." Tessa stepped back, stunned. "You can work on yourselves," I finished. "Or not. That's your choice. But you don't get automatic access to the life I built just because you regret how it looks." I closed the door gently. Not a slam, not a performance, just an ending. Inside, Logan and Mira were laughing in their blanket fort. The house felt warm, steady, ours. No anger, no bitterness. Just peace. And I knew, without doubt, I would never let anyone make my children feel unwanted again.